Ladies and gentlemen, my name is
Scott.
Hey, yo. Is that his younger brother? It's gonna be
Jeff.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
And you're listening to
all of the great action figures from our good friends at Hasbro.
The Fullyposeable.
Have your own WrestleMania with all your favorite figures.
Wrestling figure.
Each sold separately from LJN.
Podcast.
And we are the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling.
Hey, welcome to episode 523 of the Fullyposeable Wrestling Figure Podcast, longest running episodic wrestling figure podcast going today. My name is Jeff, and sitting alongside next to me is my real life brother, not storyline brother, Scott. Say hello.
Hello.
Well, Scott, this is a show, no script, no notes. Actually, we never had a script, but we had notes. There's just going to be about a 15-minute kind of free ball for us on this, and yeah, away we go.
I'm sure everybody knows, they've seen the social media posts. A huge part of this show left us about, well, at this point that we're recording, 5 days ago. Passed away. Dad passed away on Sunday, January 25th. And we won't go into details on, what took him and all that kind of stuff. He was in the hospital, but the beautiful thing was he was surrounded by his family. All four of his sons were there, his wife, his grandchildren, and your significant other, Jeff. My wife was there. He was surrounded by everybody in his life that loved him. And, as a middle-aged man myself, looking down the road, that's really all you can ask for. And he was comfortable and he went peacefully. So a huge part of this show has left us.
Yeah. A lot of listeners have reached out, and thank you to you guys. This reminds me of why we do this show. This reminds me of the community that came around us when the social media posts went out about Dad. And everybody up one way and down the other were messaging us saying sorry. Thank you to everybody. Each message meant a lot, whether it was on Instagram, whether it was underneath Scott's post, whether it was a text message. However you guys communicated to us, it meant the world to us. It's something else when you have to watch your parent take their last breath, and it's a surreal moment. But as Scott said, he was surrounded by his family, his legacy, as I like to call it. That's his legacy. People may put legacy in. I kind of talked about this in the hospital room, but some people may put legacy into property or into items and stuff like that. Your legacy is your children that you raised. And if how they are and how they treat other people, that is a notch on your belt, I guess you could say.
Amen.
So we're going to miss Dad. This show today is going to be a replay of Mom and Dad from, I know it was Mother's Day, but it was Mother's Day, I believe 2017 or 18. And we had Mom and Dad on. And this is basically want to replay this because it showed how much all four of us meant to each other, Mom, Dad, Scott, and I, and how close we were, how close we are, I should say. But I want to replay this episode. I know we're going to be doing a replay also on the 10-year anniversary. I know this is going to be a little construed a little bit, but episode 523 will come out first. Our 10-year anniversary of episode 522 will come out next. After Dad passed, my time was devoted to Mom. I had this week off of work, and I would say outside of sleeping, I was with Mom basically 19 hours a day or 18 hours a day or whatever it was, just to help her out, just trying to do what I can to help her. And she's going to have a lot of help going forward. But this week I devoted to Mom. So that's why there was no show last week. I had no time to edit. I was in the middle of editing our 10-year anniversary episode, and a lot of stuff went down with Dad. So anyways, it's going to be a little backwards. Episode 523 will come out first. And then later this week, 522 will come out, the 10-year anniversary. Then Scott and I will be back to our normal, regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, just to echo what you had said, Jeff, I want to offer a heartfelt thank you to everybody that reached out through text message, Instagram, the Facebook post, what have you. the outpour of love and support from the community, from people we've never met, right? The outpouring of love and support from you guys has just been beautifully overwhelming. And if Dad saw that, it would touch him. Just, he would love that. This show meant so much to him. You guys meant the world to him. And his fingerprints are all over this show. This show doesn't exist without him.
Mm-hmm.
Mom as well, of course. It wasn't a one-person show in our household. It was Mom and Dad. But without Dad, there's no almost daily trips to Toys R Us in Hayward because I had to go help him clean the laundromat to get a Toys R Us trip out of him.
Yep.
You know, there's no trips to Gemco and, you know, all these other places that he would take me because I'd call around during the day. Do you have so-and-so? Yeah, we've got so-and-so here, you know, can come pick it up. Dad, so-and-so has this figure. I need to go. And it wasn't just wrestling. It was, you know, numerous trips to G.I. Joe or numerous trips to Toys R Us for like G.I. Joe stuff, all that. There was one trip in particular I remember. I had, I don't know, like 30 or 40 bucks in my pocket and it was burning a hole. So laundromat cleanup, Toys R Us trip after, that was the reward. No joke. I think we spent easy 45 minutes in Toys R Us. And I walked up and down those 3 boy aisles of toys. I don't even know how many times. Up one, down the next, up the next, back down, all the way back down the next one. And I was trying to decide between like 3 things. And finally, Dad stopped walking with me. He just waited at the end of one of the aisles and he's watching me. And I, you know, I'm circling the trail and I come back around one time and Dad goes, how many times are you going to walk up and down these aisles before you figure this out? I'm like, what's wrong? You want to go home? He's like, I'm hungry. I'm like, okay. It was like 45 minutes and he wasn't mad. He was just giving me a little bit of crap, but that's just how he was. He was, as you said, Jeff, he was somebody who tied his legacy into his family. And he lived it. He breathed it until his dying day.
Yeah.
And you and I are a direct reflection of him, who he was as a person. I am a reflection of him as a father. I think I have a lot of the same qualities. And to everybody that reached out, again, thank you so much, because it would have meant the world to Dad to see your guys' outpouring of love and support. It would have warmed his heart, as he always said. And he'd probably shed some Ric Flair tears as well. He's going to be missed. Again, his fingerprints are all over this show. As long as this thing lasts, Dad's going to be with us.
Well, let's not forget the numerous donations Dad made regarding giveaways.
Yeah.
What the listeners did for Dad and getting him a new chair. I was just sitting in that chair today, you know, helping Mom on the computer with some stuff.
Yeah, the drive that Randy put together.
Yep.
So kind of him to do that for Dad.
Yeah. And, you know, when Dad was on, I love speaking to my people. You know, that's what he said a few times.
Yes.
Hey, how was our downloads for the episode that your mom and I were on? It was good, Dad. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Hey, okay. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure you guys didn't lose.
Have I gone viral?
But Dad liked talking to you guys, and I know he hadn't been on in a few years. Last time I want to say he was on was 2021, I think, and he did a giveaway. But there's a lot of memories that we have with Dad, and one of them I want to share. Brian from the legendary Wrestling Figure Podcast, hell of a guy. He will appreciate this one. So when we would go to Disneyland, Scott would walk around with a gentleman we had on the show about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Big Dave. We shared many stories about going to Disneyland with him and his family over the years. But Scott would be able to walk around with Big Dave because they were old enough and they were able to, you know, they were able to go check out the girls at Disneyland and all this stuff. But Dad was saddled with me. And Dad was such a trooper because, and for those that know the Disneyland layout, I would go to the arcade that's over by Space Mountain.
This was 80s, 90s Disneyland layout.
Yep. I then would want to walk over to Pirates of the Caribbean when I finally got over my fear of Pirates of the Caribbean. Then we would go over to the teacups, then walk over to Haunted Mansion. So Dad and I are logging some steps, right, dude?
You're not in a concise pattern that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like we're going to go from here to here to here to here, and it all makes sense geographically. No. Instead of going like in a line or a curve, you guys were almost going in like a star pattern.
a Z pattern. That's exactly what we were doing. We were
Yeah.
So, we would go over to Haunted Mansion, and then we would go to Autopia, and then we would go back to Pirates, ride Pirates again, then go to the People Mover, then maybe to some, Toad's Wild Ride or something. But the fact of the matter is Dad would complain about it after the trip. Holy crap, son, can't you just do everything in one shot? Like, arcades, then let's go on the People Mover or something, because it was in that general vicinity. But no, Dad was a trooper. I usually heard about it after the trip, but Dad was a trooper about taking me around Disneyland and letting me go on the rides that I wanted to ride, to kind of make me forget that I didn't have a friend down there at that time, until a friend of ours, Franco, went around. But I didn't have that friend, and Dad was my friend, and he was my companion, holding my hand and leading me to everywhere I wanted to go. I heard about it after, but you know what? During, he rarely complained.
We did one family trip every year. Our family vacation every year was a week in Disneyland in August. And Dad couldn't have given a crap about Disneyland. There was zero Disney attachment. There was zero Disney love in his body. He did not have any ties to Disney at all. Unlike the rest of us, we're all like Disney freaks. Dad didn't care. But Dad went on that week-long vacation because his kids and his wife enjoyed it, and he wanted us to be happy. And that's who Dad was. Dad was selfless. Dad never bought himself a new car, ever. The only thing he really bought himself were guns, because he's an avid duck hunter. So he has a ton of shotguns. That was his love. It was duck hunting and his family.
Before I left Mom's house tonight, Mom wanted to say thank you for everyone that reached out. Every message got relayed to Mom, and Mom appreciated every single one. They had 54 years of marriage, so Mom's on a new path at the age of almost 80, and she's got to learn to readapt and learn how to live without Dad and everything. So, but she's got a good support.
With us, she's going to be all right.
Yeah, she's got a good support system among everybody. And back to Dad, thank you to everyone. This reminds me of why we do the show. Every single text message, every single I am instant messenger. Listen to me. Way to date myself on that one. But
thanks for all the AIM messages.
Thank you for the DM and the IMs. But no, thank you to everybody. You guys are great. One other side note, and not to keep this sad, but Rad Chad, longtime listener of the show, he hasn't missed an episode, lost his mom, and our hearts are breaking for him too. So Rad Chad, whenever you need us, we're here for you.
We love you, dude.
Yeah, we love you, man. You know where to get a hold of us. But when you're through all this, we're gonna catch up, dude. So
for sure. Yeah, 2025 ended crappy. 2026 has not started well at all. I'm hoping it only goes up from here. It can only get better, right? So everything's kind of jumbled right now. It'll sort itself out. But we wanted you guys to know what was going on, and we wanted you guys to know that Dad thought very highly of all of you, and he was so proud of this show. And not just because of us, but because of the whole community that got created and the kindness that pours out of it. So thank you guys.
Yeah. So sorry for the confusion of the 10-year anniversary episode coming out later this week. I was literally editing it and everything happened. And basically, for those that know, time stands still when something like this happens. You don't know what day it is. You don't know what time it is. You don't know if it's day or night. You don't know what's going on. You just know that you know what you have to do to keep your family strong and keep them up. So anyways,
We learned that from Dad.
yeah, exactly. You do what you got to do for family. And as Dad always said, you pull from the same side of the rope.
That's right. Everybody pulls from the same rope. And Jeff, I got to thank you, dude. I've got the flu literally the night Dad passed away. So I have been out of commission all week. I'm just starting to feel somewhat human again today. You held it down for Mom when I couldn't be there. So from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of Shannon's heart, thank you so much, dude. You held it down for her. Having somebody there for her in her corner when all this went down was the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Not being alone is so important when something like this happens, and you were there. So just brother to brother, I want to say thank you and I love you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I love you, dude. Love Shannon too. Some tough times right now, but as I said, 10-year anniversary will be out later this week. I'll finish that editing and we'll be back to our normally scheduled programming starting next week. And we'll be on to 524. That I promise 524 will be the following week. So anyways, again, thank you guys. We're going to play the episode with Mom and Dad on it from Mother's Day. I believe it was 2017, 2018. I can't remember which year.
I want to say 2018, but I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy.
Love you, Dad.
Scott, sitting to our respective rights, to your right is our wonderful father, Keith. And to my right is our wonderful mom, Gail. You guys can say hello.
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 You may know them as the benefactors.
Yeah. This is the other tag team.
So far, we haven't been tagged much.
Wanted to have you guys on as a Mother's Day interview. I thought this would be special. This is something that's going to be basically on the internet forever. So this is something that will never go away. And this is something special for us, for the family, because you guys were the ones that spawned this. You guys kept feeding the trolls, I guess you could say, the wrestling figures. So wanted to just kind of get your guys' perspective on us growing up with these wrestling figures. And first question is, Dad, I know you collect guns. You're an avid duck hunter. Mom, you collect Disney toys. Dad, growing up, was there any toys that you grew up with that you remember?
No, nothing that comes to mind. It was all kind of with my grandparents and my mom and my dad. And to my knowledge, I never really collected dolls or anything.
Mom, how about you?
We really, growing up with just Grandma, we didn't have the money to afford any collectibles, so I wasn't aware of them until later on in life. And then it got to be the Rakes Bears and the Disney. Mm-hmm. So,
Mom, first things first, I do want to bring in the Iron Sheik story, because we told this on the very first episode. And backstory to this one, for those people that are new to the show, Mom refused to buy us an Iron Sheik figure because he had the word Iran written down the side of his tights. Mom, looking back, is it funny now?
I would do the same thing again, probably.
We had to buy that figure ourselves.
Yes. We did.
Because Mom still refused to buy the Iron. We never got him from Mom. I think we even got the Nikolai Volkov, but we never got the Iron Sheik.
No.
We had to go get him with Christmas money.
Well, the funny thing was we even tried begging Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah, and they held the same line.
Yeah, because we tried asking Grandma and Grandpa to go to South Shore here in Alameda, California, and see if we could get the Iron Sheik figure. And they're like, no, I don't think we can.
Yeah, it was like Mom had put the ground rules down with everybody. Do not buy the Iron Sheik.
I'm not stubborn. I'm determined.
So, Mom, do you remember the first time Scott ever asked for a wrestling figure?
For a wrestling figure, the year, no, not really. It kind of went along with, I think, the Star Wars, and then it just kind of melded from Star Wars right into the wrestling figures. But from the time Scott was little, and I used to have to go shopping on my own and needed him to really be good. This was before you were born. My bribe was, if you're good, I'll get you a toy. And I think that's kind of where it took off from.
No, it totally is. That's where the whole sickness started with the toy collecting, was definitely from that. And if I was really good, I got one for each hand.
Yeah.
And it was usually the little pocket Mego guys, the 3 3/4 inch. That's usually what I ended up getting, because I think they were like $1 or $2 each or something. And Mom was like, if you're really good, you can get one for each hand. And that meant I could get Batman and Robin or Captain America and Spider-Man. So like I was always trying to be like extra good. But I remember the first time that I tried to get a wrestling figure, Mom shot it down because we were at Toys R Us and I was looking for mask toys. And I ended up finding it, and Mom did end up getting that for me. But while I was looking for the mask toys, I spotted the wrestling figures. I had no idea about wrestling. I had heard people at school talking about it. I had no idea what it was. I picked up Jimmy Superfly Snuka and I was like, Mom, these look cool. Can I get this? And she goes, the last thing you need is another collection. You've got Star Wars, you've got G.I. Joe, you've got Batman, you've got He-Man. You're holding a mask toy in your hand. You do not need any more of these toys. And so then it became my mission to start cutting out other toy lines so that you and I could start getting wrestling figures. I think that was kind of the deal, that like if I got rid of some of the other toy lines, so I think I went home and immediately stopped playing with He-Man.
Well, the funny thing is I didn't even know what wrestling figures were.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you got it from Auntie Carolyn at Christmas time and you put the figure down and you went to thank everybody. And it was a Hulk Hogan LJN, of course.
Yeah.
And I picked it up. I was like, this is dumb. Doesn't move. And then 2 days later, I'm seeing Hulk Hogan on TV.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? Why is this consuming my life right now?
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
And little did you know, 35 years later, still consuming your life.
I know, right?
Little did I know.
So, Dad, there's also a funny hunting story that I wanted to get into the show. As I mentioned earlier, you're an avid duck hunter. And your first two sons, Scott and I's oldest brothers, Keith and Kevin, are avid hunters also. And you got them into hunting, and you tried so hard with Scott and I to get into hunting. But this one instance was my very first time taken out to the duck blinds. And I know you remember this. But I'm sitting there, I have a pink wool hat on, a red flannel jacket.
True. Freezing to death.
Freezing to death. You're like, oh, there's one. And I'm like, okay, this is great, but I want to go back in. But here's the other thing is you also took the wrestling figures up there, and I also wanted to watch Muppet Babies on cartoon. Do you remember that time?
I do. I remember it like it was yesterday, and God, that has to be 45 years ago, 40 years ago.
He's only 40.
Yeah,
I understand, but it all kind of runs together, and it was just so a natural part of the way we did things to go hunting. And when I took you out there, you were kind of interested in the grass, and you were kind of interested in the water and the little things swimming around in the water. And so when it became time to actually hunt, with shooting time, they call it, the birds started to fly around, and I'm telling you all of the virtues of the marsh and how it comes alive and the birds are moving and everything. And I looked over to say something to you, and you had your head down and were playing with some sort of a little figure that you had taken out of your pocket. And all I saw was the pink top of your head and moving around. And I'm saying, Jeffrey, look at the birds. Here they come. You know, isn't that beautiful? And look at the sunrise. And yeah, back into the bottom of the blind playing with your toy. And
that sounds like Jeff.
So we were out there, I don't know, I think it was all of about 6 or 8 minutes. And you said, is it time to go in yet? Is the TV on? Can I look at the TV and where's my wrestling figures? And I thought, well, that's the lost cause. It's over. So I wrapped it up and came in, and your hat was all askew, and you had lost one of your earplugs. You couldn't find it. And I thought, oh my goodness, am I glad we didn't shoot the gun. It would have blown his ears out.
Well, the funny thing is we went into the clubhouse.
Yes.
And sure enough, you turned on the TV. Muppet Babies was on. Wrestling figures were right in front of me.
Yep. And as I'm looking out the window, watching all the ducks float into the duck area, into the marsh and into the duck blinds, and I'm sitting in the clubhouse watching TV and watching Jeffrey play with his little figurines.
So speaking of taking wrestling figures everywhere, one of the other stories we've told on the show is how we would go to Disneyland and the wrestling figures and their ring would take center stage in the trunk. Mom, would you like to describe how you managed to fit 50 pounds worth of wrestling figures and ring into the middle of the humongous trunk when we were heading to Disneyland for a week?
The only thing I can say is thank the Lord we had a big trunk on that
was a big
Buick.
Trunk. Yes.
But I can remember we're trying to get the whole thing packed, and we had enough food probably for 2 or 3 weeks for 40 people.
Yeah.
And we were only going for 5 days.
Yeah.
But everything else had to be packed first, and then come the wrestling figures and the ring. That had to go on top, and as you're walking out, your figures were falling all over the place.
Yeah, because they were heaped up and over the
Yes.
top of the ropes. Yes.
Yes. But for me, it was a love-hate relationship with that ring. I couldn't stand it when we were going somewhere.
I'd be carrying the things out behind her, and the ropes to the ring would be dangling behind us and tripping over them, and don't step on that. And then I'd step on something, and she'd kind of jerk around from being held by the ring. And then one of the figures would fall off, and she's trying to bend over and grab the figures, and the rest of them is like a cascading deck of cards that come off the top. So here we are at 4:30 in the morning in front of the house, picking up things out of the driveway, out of the street, trying to get packed. It was to kind of go along with this, it became an ingrained part of our lives. That no matter where we went, it brought our family closer together.
And that was the part of the ring that I could not stand.
Yep.
But the love part was when you two were upstairs and I was down in the kitchen cooking or whatever. I was downstairs and I could hear the thump, thump, thump of your wrestling figures on the mat. And I thought, they're safe, they're home, everything's fine.
Maybe playing nice together, maybe not. That could have been me bashing Jeff's head against the floor. We don't know. But in Mom's mind, it was wrestling figures, so we were all good.
We were good.
I still remember, Mom, you came upstairs after the Giants lost to the Cardinals in the 87 championship series. And I was sitting there and I kind of took solace in the wrestling figures. And you came in and you opened up the door and you look in and you're like, "You okay, sweetie?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm just playing with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. And you kind of sat down next to me and you were kind of picking up the figure and you're like, "The Giants can't win every year." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I still remember that, like, to this day, because you came up to check on me because I was so distraught that they lost and they weren't going into the series. I was young then. But I still remember you coming in and kind of picking up a figure. You weren't playing with the figure, you just kind of picked it up and kind of messing with it. You're like, "Hey, they can't win them all." I'm like, I know.
I knew the feelings. I had been through that for years with the Giants.
You didn't know you have to wait 23 more years for them to actually finally do it. Yeah.
But it was always such a solidifying part of our family. I know this sounds kind of silly, but everything we did was kind of centered on making sure that we had those figures. Not that they were a security blanket, but because of the closeness it brought us together with. It was not at all a dividing part of our family. It was what brought us all together and what kind of centered us. And we knew that as we could hear those sounds coming from the bedrooms of the rings where you were having matches and dropping, and one wrestler was hitting the ring and bouncing off the ropes, we knew that it was a very constructive part of our family.
Yeah, and it still is today. It really still is today. That's the one passion that Jeff and I have always shared, and it's never gone away, is not only wrestling, but the figures themselves. It's always been our strongest bond.
Did we ever keep you guys awake with the figures?
Not me personally, because of the fact that I could hear what you guys were doing. And again, it was the matches that you devised, the matches that you came up with, the rules you came up with. And there was no fights about the rules because the rules were established. And again, that's bringing the family closer together. And Mom and I were all centrally located on the family. And it was that closeness that was a very, very secure bond for Mom and I. And she would always come out of the kitchen and say, that sound upstairs. Well, we have a tri-level house, a 3-level house, and we could hear that sound upstairs, and Mom would come out and say, "Can you hear that?" And I say, "I sure can." And she'd say, "That's good." And I'd say, "You're absolutely right." Never any yelling, never any screaming, never any fights.
Well,
yeah. Well, yeah. If you want to start with Jeffrey figuring out that Scott's little figurines were not bendable buddies where you can bend the arms and
Yeah, the Kiss
pull the
figures,
legs.
Jeff.
As the Kiss figures started to go into disintegration.
Yeah, Jeff was Thanos.
Yep.
And my Kiss figures were everybody else in the world.
Yep. And
he made half of them disappear.
And he had those that were stretching the arms, and he'd pull and pull. All of a sudden the arm would snap off, and he'd go, "Oh, that doesn't work," and he'd throw it down and go on to the other arm.
Do you remember that story clearly when Jeff literally broke half of my Kiss figures?
Yes.
I don't remember it.
Well, yeah, first you weren't supposed to be playing with Scott's figures because he told you, these are special. Don't deal with those, because Scott was really into Kiss.
Yeah, Jeff.
As he is today.
Yeah, take that, Jeff.
So then, so it was an understanding. You didn't play with him. But for some reason, this one day, you not only ravaged one, I think you averaged about 3 or 4 that you ravaged, and noses were missing, parts of arms, a foot was broken off, and Scott comes home and here's this train wreck of figures, and his Kiss figures of all things. And Jeffrey's like, What? I don't know. And I told you not to play with my Kiss figures, and now they're all deformed, and hands are broken, legs are gone.
So do you remember the worst part of it was not only the Kiss figures being destroyed, but then as I went to go tell Mom what he had done, he picked up his little musical toy train that played the records in the back and hit me in the back of the head with it so I couldn't go tell Mom. That was just the worst.
I was scared you were going to tell on me.
He didn't have to. The lump on the back of his head did.
The scream from the other room.
I got in on the aftermath of that one.
Can we ground Jeff right now? Can we just put him on restriction?
Sure, let's do that.
Great, not again. I'm pretty sure the editor grounded me a couple weeks ago for something. I don't know what it was. One thing I did want to ask is, how did you guys, actually I should say, how were you guys able to afford 2 sets of figures? The first couple of series of figures, because you guys purchased 2 series of figures for us, 2 each, one for Scott, one for me, even including a ring. How were you guys able to do that? How were you guys able to budget that? How were you guys able to make that work and still put food on the table and still
take us to Disneyland once a year?
Right. How were you guys able to do that?
Can you imagine if we wouldn't have done that? What our life would have been?
Yeah, we would have killed each other.
Yeah, Scott and I would not be here right now.
We'd be fighting over who gets to use Hogan or Andre, and yeah, that would have been all bad. It's a good point.
I went shopping quite a bit throughout the year, picking things out that I knew you guys would want. And so then when it came up on your Christmas list, I already had it. So it was a budgeting that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and for me, I just was supporting Mom. Whatever Mom wanted, I knew that it was a solidifying part of our family, and I wanted that to happen. So there was never any argument. Mom, myself, both you and Scott, always pulled from the same side of the rope. And I've always said that you can always pull a rope, but it's very difficult to push a rope. And we did that as a family. And those figurines, those wrestling figures, and the Kiss figures were all a part of that to solidify our family.
But how did you guys budget that? That's what I'm amazed by, is you guys were able to budget that, and plus also support our Nintendo habit. Mom, I learned the word shit from you because of Super Mario.
Super Mario.
And Tetris.
Yeah,
and Tetris.
I was going to say, let
Jim.
alone Tetris. What about Superman?
I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out, Mom. But
wow.
But how were you guys able to do that? I look at how Scott is able to support an older daughter and a younger daughter. How are you guys able to do that? Plus support our Nintendo habit, plus support putting food on the table, plus baseball games. Mom, you took us to many A's games. How were you guys able to do that? Was there sacrifices somewhere, or was it something that you guys just decided this is what it's going to be?
We as a family, Mom and I, decided that's the way it's going to be. Now, did we sacrifice? I'm sure we did, but it wasn't anything that we didn't sacrifice for the good. So when you make those decisions to move through life like that, then it's not a sacrifice. It's part of giving you the foundation as children to try to find a path in life. And I know I'm kind of preaching here a little bit, but you do these things subconsciously, and I'm like myself, I'm pushing 80 years old, and I have yet to ever in my life buy a new car. And I look back on that now and I reflect that maybe it was a good thing I didn't. And I'm okay. I'm okay not having a new car. Never had a new car. Don't know what it is, don't want to know, because those things went for the family. So yeah, there were probably sacrifices, but not on a personal basis to consider them sacrifices. We just wanted it to happen, and again, we pulled from the same side of the rope, and we made it happen by supporting each other and loving each other. And that's where we started from, was a base of love.
Yeah, it's always just, I've always wondered that too, because as a parent, raising 2 children, I see the costs involved now. When you and I were growing up, we never saw that. We weren't rich by any stretch.
No.
I definitely would not consider us rich, definitely middle class, but we never wanted for anything. If Jeff and I wanted wrestling figures, we got wrestling figures. If I wanted some G.I. Joes, I got some G.I. Joes. And if you wanted baseball cards, you got baseball cards. And we were always going to A's games. And we never really wanted for anything. And that blows me away today, because I know how the struggle goes for myself. And it's really hard to fit into, because you want to do everything for your kids, but it's really hard to fit a budget to do everything for your kids. There have to be sacrifices made somewhere. And to me, looking back, I think the sacrifices were completely made on Mom and Dad's part to make it happen for you and I, Jeff. That still today is the one thing that I am most thankful for as an adult, is looking back and seeing the sacrifices that were made so you and I could have a wrestling figure podcast today and just talk about all the cool stuff we had growing up. And here we sit with the benefactors.
and continuing to benefactor this show, to benefactor anything that you may want to move into that was in our means to do. And that continues today. In fact, you have an account that you can draw from that you have chosen through all of this program not to use. And that account is still sitting there. It's not a lot of money, but it's money that you could have used to buy microphones, to buy machines to raise and lower the volume of the show, all those things that you could have used. That money's still sitting there. Now, why don't you use it? Because you're making your own way. That doesn't mean you can't use it, but you've chosen not to use it. You're making good decisions in life. And maybe that comes right back to the decisions from the wrestling figures. I don't know. But again, that was the central part of it. We didn't go anywhere without the ring, without the figures, without the belt, and then you'd lose a belt and you'd go ballistic. And they're just little tags. Where's my belt? What belt? The belt that goes around his waist. I don't know from a belt. Well, it's got to be in the trunk somewhere. Now, this car we had, this 82 Buick, was a limousine. I mean, it went for miles. It was a big car. We'd have seats out. We'd have the trunk out, the mats in the trunk, looking for a little belt that says championship on it. And son of a gun, we'd find it. It never failed. And it would go back on the waist of the figure, and everything was good again. But it was all central to the rings that you both had and all of the figures that went in it. Then trying to sort out whose figures were who, when they all went in the center and the rings got jumbled up and they got upside down, and it was amazing. But there was never any fight.
Mom was a packing champion too, because I can remember the ring being in the center of the trunk, and Mom would literally get into the trunk. It was that big where Mom could get in the trunk, and she's shoving things into every single corner of that trunk. Every inch of space was occupied with either snacks, a suitcase, or the wrestling ring. It was one of those things, and Mom would literally get inside the trunk to make sure every square inch was occupied.
It's true. I forgot about that.
Yes.
That's why Mom was so good at Tetris.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Wheel drop Tetris.
Yeah. Dad, you talked about sacrifices. One of the sacrifices that you did for Scott and I is, Scott and I would be on summer vacation, but the second you would get home, we would be waiting on the top steps for you and saying, Dad, we need to go to Toys R Us.
We called Toys R Us 10 times today, and finally Barbara said they got new figures, and so, Dad, we have to go to Toys R Us.
And I'd say, sons, let me change my clothes, because in those days I was wearing a shirt and a tie and all of the things that I did. And I'd go up, change, and as I was coming down the stairs, the 13 stairs from up above, thank you, there were two shining little faces at the bottom of the stairs looking up the stairs at me. And I knew that there was no way that I was not going to go to Toys R Us, that I was not going to go to the laundromat afterwards, that we had to kind of support some of the things we did. And to come home after that and see right back up those same stairs they went with their little figurines and their belts and the things that they had acquired at Toys R Us just warmed my heart. And I'd come home the next day and there they are again. They talked to Barbara again and here we go again.
Well, that was probably for a different toy line too. Maybe like wrestling figures one day could be Mask, He-Man,
that's
G.I. Joe
absolutely
the next.
correct.
Yes.
No, and again, Mom and I supported all that. And sacrifices, no sacrifices, Jeff. No.
Well, it was funny because we would be waiting for you on the top step. Dad, Barbara says they finally got a truck in. Figures are on them. We got to go, Dad.
Have they taken them out of the truck yet? No, but we'll be between the time from here to there. They'll get them off the truck.
Barbara's going to pull them off.
Barbara's going to have them for us. Okay, sons. Again, let me change.
Well,
let me change my tie.
Well, I give you so much credit because I get home from work and I am just beat to you know what, and I've got 3 dogs I got to let outside, let them roam around. I got a kitten I've got to take out, and it's one of those things that I'm like, how did Dad do that? Because I'm ready to strangle these dogs by the 2 minutes in, you know?
Yeah, we know today coming home from work how we feel. So it helps us appreciate, you say it's not a sacrifice, we say it is. We appreciate the sacrifice that you made in taking us to do that just so you could see our shining faces at the bottom of the stairs. And I think it helped, Jeff, that when we did acquire that laundromat, that we were able to go and help Dad clean it because he didn't have to do it solo. The trade was we got to go to Toys R Us afterwards to get toys, but we had to help clean the laundromat first.
Oh yeah, we had to take those quarters out.
And we had to wipe the machines down.
Yeah.
We had to wipe inside the machine, on the outside. On collection days, we carried the bags around and Dad would dump the quarters in there.
Yep.
Those were the hardest days. The good days were when we only had to wipe the machines down, and then we got to go to Toys R Us afterwards.
Well, the funny thing is we would help wipe the machines down, and then Dad would be like, okay, I've got to do some stuff in the back. And we would have wrestling figures.
Always.
We'd be playing with them on the table, waiting for Dad to get out so we can go over to Toys R Us because it was right down the street.
Yeah.
And one of the things you both didn't know is a lot of those quarters that you helped me collect that came out of those machines, a lot of days it wasn't profitable for us because all the money went right back into getting figurines for you guys. So the laundromat was a losing proposition for us. However, it was just down the street from Toys R Us.
Yeah, like 5 minutes. It was one exit down.
Yes.
Yeah. Mom, speaking of Hayward Toys R Us, there is an infamous story that we've told on this show numerous times. In fact, it made it onto other podcasts.
Yes, it did.
Thank you, Marty DeRosa and Sarah. But one of the stories that we've told is the infamous car accident story where we were going to Hayward Toys R Us because they got new figures in.
Thank you, Barbara.
Mom, do you want to go into detail about that story?
No.
Okay, Mom, go into detail about that story.
Would you like a refresher course?
No, gee. I can remember going out there. What was it? It was on a weekend.
It was a weekend. It was a Saturday. Yep.
And as we're one exit to go, just one
Yeah,
exit.
we had just passed the exit for the laundromat.
Yeah. And what happens? There's an accident over the side. And I don't remember which one of you said, oh, look, there's an accident.
It was probably Jeff.
And I glanced over just in time to turn around and look forward to see all the traffic in front of me stopping. And remember that great big Buick we had?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it didn't have ABS.
Nope.
And those brakes just skidded me right into the van ahead of me. Luckily, nobody was hurt. The police officer who had been over at the accident on the side now came over to our accident, and I'm just, no. But what I do remember is I had these chirping voices in my ear. Mom,
Scott.
can we still go to Toys R Us?
After the accident.
So this isn't going to ruin the Toys R Us trip, right? We still get to go to Toys R Us. The guy said no harm done. It's okay.
So that story actually is funny because we found figures that day.
Yes, we did.
And Scott, maybe for the newer listeners of our show, do you want to go into completing that story? Now, mind you, Mom is shaken up from the car accident.
Yes.
Mom is very shaken up. But she's a trooper, and Mom still takes us to Toys R Us. Continue.
So we get to Toys R Us, and yeah, Mom is still shaken up. And Jeff and I already knew there were figures there because we had called Barbara earlier in the day. But she didn't put them aside. They were out on the pegs, and she even told me that. So we ran right to the pegs. Unfortunately, some teenagers had gotten to the figures before we did, and one of them was holding SD Jones. So I went up to the guy. I told Jeff, go to the next aisle. Jeff goes around the next aisle. I go up to the guy and I go, dude, is that a new wrestling figure? He goes, yeah, they just got an SD Jones. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Can I see him? Well, the guy made the mistake of handing me SD Jones so I could look at him. And I walked away with SD Jones, went down the next aisle, and I go, let's go, dude. Let's go down a couple more aisles. And we're going to loop back around and see what else is on the pegs.
For some reason, I remember you leaving me in front of...
Did I leave you? I didn't tell you
Yeah,
to go?
because I followed you to the wrestling figure aisle, and you saw him holding SD Jones, and you went straight for him. You grabbed the figure, and I'm like, where's Scott going?
Okay, so I left you there.
You left me there.
Okay.
I remember you walking to the next aisle, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's going to go to the next aisle. I got to follow my big brother, but what about the figures?
Yeah. So I guess the guys wandered off, and we kind of waited for them to leave.
Yeah.
And we found... Now, it was the red shirt SD Jones, not the Hawaiian shirt. And we also found Bruno Sammartino that day, and maybe the ref. I'm trying to remember who else. I know it was Bruno and SD for sure, and I think there was one more. It might have been the referee.
Right. I remember getting Bruno for Easter, too.
Yeah, Mom saved Bruno for Easter, but we got to open SD Jones that day. Mom didn't remember the names, but the car accident was very clear.
Yeah, the car accident was clear.
You remember Jeff chirping in your ear.
Well, was it Jeff?
No, it was me. Because I remember the look you shot me.
Well, I still remember Mom still shaking at Toys R Us from the car accident. We're holding figures. Mom, can you get us these figures? And she's looking at us like, you guys are such jerks.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out good for you two.
Yes, very good.
That it did.
Another story I wanted to talk on is we had mentioned our very first WWF show that you guys took us to. And I don't know if you remember it, Mom. I don't know if you do, but one of the things that we remember most from the show is Scott got a Macho Man poster. The poster was rolled up into a little tube, but we were sitting on the floor of the Oakland Coliseum. Dad is holding the tube with the poster in it. People keep standing up, and Dad is whacking people. Sit down, sit down.
So Dad got to play whack-a-mole while we watched the show.
Do you guys remember anything about that show out of curiosity?
I do remember Dad doing that. We were afraid they were going to turn around and hit us.
Well, one of the things I was worried about is it is so energy charged when you get there, and everybody is so amped. And when they would stand up, you guys were little, and I was afraid that you were going to get trampled because you were on the floor. And I was afraid people moving forward to the ring were going to hurt you guys. So I kind of broadened myself out and kind of had my arms out, and you two were sitting in front of me, and because they were standing up, I was kind of tapping them, not whack-a-mole, but tapping them. And then I was afraid I was going to bend the little paper tube, and then I was going to put a crease in your poster and damage it.
That was my concern too.
Yeah, so that didn't happen, thankfully. But I was so afraid of you guys getting hurt because it was a mob scene. I mean, it was mobbed.
Yeah, especially when Macho Man and JYD came out.
It was WWF at its absolute craziness.
Yeah,
and
at its height for sure.
Yep, and in those days, they were right there. I mean, the wrestlers were right there. There was no kind of a buffer. There was just people.
It was very small on the outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean,
small
you
bike
could
rack, and that was it.
You could move right to the ring, and when they would come in, they'd come down a center aisle, and then they would kind of fan out to the ring, but not around the ring. The ring was so-called ringed with people,
right?
And it was different then than what I see now on TV.
I still remember from that show, Junkyard Dog and Macho Man getting into a spitting fight. Macho Man's up on the second rope. Scott tells this story too. JYD's on the floor, and they're spitting at each other. And the people in the front row are like ducking like it's a Gallagher concert.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't have garbage bags to cover up.
Yeah, they weren't smashing watermelons. They were spitting.
So, Mom, you did a lot of toy shopping for Scott and I, for Easter, for birthdays, for Christmas. What are some of your favorite, and we call it on the show toy spotting, but what are some of your favorite toy spotting moments of when you went out and found figures for us,
and it doesn't have to be just wrestling.
Yeah, it can be G.I. Joe, He-Man, it can be any form of wrestling figure. And it could even be like a month ago where you went out and found figures for us or something. But like, is there anything that you remember specifically?
What I remember is taking my list and going through the list, and I'd go shopping with our friend Betty, and she would be able to reach everything on the upper shelves. I, being short, got everything on the bottom. We both hit the middle, but we're searching through everything, and we would scan all these aisles of whether it was Star Wars, whether it was Batman and Robin, whether it was Knight Rider or Dukes of Hazzard.
Or superpowers when you found the Wonder Woman, because remember how hard it was to find that Wonder Woman?
Yep.
Because they didn't pack the female figures
That's right.
the way that they do now, and she was very short packed, and you hunted everywhere for that Wonder Woman.
Those were the fun days.
Yeah.
And you know what? They haven't changed, because when I call and say, I'm going to Walmart, does anybody need anything? Mom, can you look for this figure?
Can you take a picture of what they have on the pegs and just kind of send it to me? Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks in advance.
In those days, that wasn't available at all.
No, definitely not.
Mom would come home and I found this and this and this, but I've still got 4 more to go, and I don't know, I'm running out of stores, and on and on and on. So I'd get an update every day.
Well, what was it? You were looking for one that was at Walgreens, I think, about a year ago, and couldn't find it. It had been the one you found had been opened.
Yeah, it was the Maurice. It was excellent calls. I was looking for the Maurice figure, and you eventually did find it for me, didn't you?
Well, I went to the first Walgreens at South Shore, and they had one, but it had been opened, like the one you found, and the belt was missing.
Yep.
So I thought, there's got to be another Walgreens around. And sure enough, there was, and they had it. Didn't they have 2 of them?
They had 2 of them.
Okay.
Yep. You picked one. You picked 2 up for me. And actually, Brandon Hova needed one.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, dude, I can't find this thing. I was like, I got you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that worked out good. As I said, this was something that I wanted to do with you guys because you guys were the ones that started all this for us. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say started. Scott seeing Jimmy Superfly snuck on the pegs at Best or Service Merchandise. That was kind of what fueled it. There's a little spark, but you guys helped contribute to everything. And then it led to this, and it led to us being on the Toys That Made Us, and it led to meeting people out and about, and they're like, hey, you're from Fullyposeable. You guys are the ones that have kind of fueled this fire from the get-go. And I wanted to have you guys on for a special Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thank you.
But I wanted to have you guys on as a kind of a mutual Father's Day thing, because this is something that's going to live on. It's going to be on the internet forever. And I wanted this on the show. And I want to thank you guys for being on. This meant so much to us to have you guys on, and it went better than expected.
Well, all I can tell you is you don't know what you've done for us and what those figures did for us. To be able to sit here and look at you both, love you so much, and know how well spoken you are, how grounded you are, how concerned you are, and how loving you are. And I'm not supposed to get choked up. I'm not supposed to get all teary-eyed.
Scott called you out on that.
I've been warned.
Like, don't you Ric Flair this show.
No, don't you do it. But I got to tell you, as silly as it sounds, and as silly as sometimes people will make you feel, don't be deterred. Absolutely go with your passion. And always, always be faithful to what you do. Have integrity. And maybe someday you'll sit back and look at your children or people that you love, as I do for both of these boys. It's just amazing and I tell Mom all the time how well spoken you are and how very, very proud I am of you.
Well, thank you, Dad. It means a lot to us. And you guys have always raised us with that integrity. That was one of the things that you guys always made sure to, I don't want to say implant, but teach us, is integrity. Be true to yourself. That has always stuck with Scott and I.
Yeah, and to your point, Jeff, I just, again, want to go back to sacrifice and just say that we truly appreciate all the sacrifices that you guys have made for us. And I know I've told you guys before, it just, as a parent, it really makes you recognize what was done for you, because you're now heading the charge and you're the one having to make those sacrifices. So when you look back, you appreciate it, you respect it, And to Jeff's point also, without you guys doing what you did for us, all of the toys that you did, not just that, but I mean the vacations and the sacrifices we saw you guys make, taking us to Toys R Us when you were exhausted after work, all those things you did define who we are today. And we both just truly appreciate it. We respect it. And happy Mother's Day, Mom. Happy Father's Day, Dad. We love you both.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jeff.
No
we
problem.
love you both.
We love you guys, and thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fullyposeable. Let's go. Jeff and Scott, the Toon Brothers, busting out the ring. But we don't take it out the box, MOC. Happy toy hunting, we'll see you next week. We're the OGs of WFP. Fullyposeable, thank you all for listening. It ain't no storyline, real life siblings. So everybody go and do your toy spotting. Hashtag Fig Life, adios from the Kings.